Hello, dear friends. I hope y'all are doing well in your mind and heart today, no matter what's raging on around us. Um, I thought I would just share a little bit and talk about what was on my heart. This starting recording these videos had nothing to do with sharing with anybody when I first started. It had to do with I got so sick I thought I was going to leave this world, and the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. It was a very hard time. It lasted for about 2 years, and the Lord taught me a lot through it. And my hands got so that I couldn't write anymore. I'd always journaled and kept a record of things that went on between me and the Lord, things I was learning and studying on and stuff. And it just hurt my hands to write, so I started to record my journal. And then, as time went on, it came on me to share publicly some of those things. For as many videos as I have public, I probably have 4 times that amount private. So, anyways, I was just thinking, and this has come back to my mind, so I know that the Lord's reminded me of it. And it was something that He taught me some years ago when I was going through a really hard time. I tell you, the lessons we learn through trouble are priceless. They really are. So, we have to pay attention to that. It's a time that we can learn. But some years ago, I was walking through a really hard time in my marriage with my husband. And I was walking with the Lord and he wasn't. And he ended up leaving me, leaving the children were little. And he was gone for about 18 days, and I did not know where he was. He wouldn't answer my calls or texts. Also, at the same time, prior to this, I had moved in a family member into my home that had an addiction problem. And I was trying to help this person onto their feet, and it was a real, I want to say disaster, but the Lord knew what He was doing. There was a lot of, as with addiction, there's a lot of lies, maybe even stealing, things like that. It was really hard. That went on for 9 years. But those two things I just described came about to be happening at the same time. And there I was, not knowing where my husband was, dealing with this family member, little kids, trying to work. My husband had even changed the bank account, and I could not get access to any money. Please know, my husband knows that I share about these things from time to time in hopes that it might help or encourage someone. And the Lord has done an amazing work in my husband's heart. Well, matter of fact, He gave him a new one. And it's been the most precious gift of my life. So, but anyways, I've walked through hell to get here. I really have. And I know there's many of you out there that also might be walking through hell. And I feel for you. And I understand. But this one particular night, with my husband gone, had gotten the kids upstairs to bed, and my family member passed out on the floor, a little seizure, scared me to death. I called the ambulance. The ambulance came, took this person away. I couldn't go. I had the kids upstairs and everything. But I loved this person. This is my very immediate family member. And I was just worried to death. And I'll never forget, I went into my bedroom after the ambulance had took him away. And I got down on my knees. And I poured my heart out to the Lord, sobbing, crying. I couldn't breathe. I just felt like I could not get enough air into my lungs. And I was pleading and begging the Lord to help me, saying, I cannot take any more. I cannot take any more. Just screaming out to Him. And I think I've shared about this before, but I don't know that I went into the lesson I learned from it. So let me just keep going. As I was sobbing there over my bed and everything, this happened to me, and I can count on one hand how many times something like this has happened to me. But all of a sudden, the air in the room changed. It was the most freshest, purest air that has ever entered my lungs. It was like it was just bringing me life and strength and comfort and helping me to breathe because I could hardly breathe. And I was just gasping in the air, breathing the air into my lungs, wanting it to never stop. I had never experienced something like that before. And I knew the Lord was there with me. You see, He's always with us, but there are certain times that we are blessed with an awareness of His presence with us. And this was one of those times. And I heard a thought came to my mind. I knew it was the Lord. And He said something that I had no clue what He's talking about. And it took years for that picture to start coming together of what He said in so few words to me that night on my knees, crying into my bed. And He said, all this that's going on around you. And that's all He said, but I knew what He meant. He meant this about my husband, this about needing money, this about my family member, this about how overwhelmed I was. And I thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown, all this stuff. He said, this, what's going on around you. It's not about that. He said, it's between me and you. And anyway, that time ended and everything. I wrote it in my journal. Like I said, I didn't know what He's talking about. But anytime I feel like He speaks to me, I would always go look into the scriptures to see if I could find something that had to do with the same thing I'd heard. And that's what I did. I'd get a little bit here and there. He'd bless me with a little piece of insight here and there over time. And for anybody that might could help, I don't know that I could convey the understanding I've received from that because it's taken me years. But if it's the Lord's will and by His kindness, maybe somebody could get the lesson real quick, that it might help you. And that was what He was showing me, was no matter what circumstance and situation I find myself in, yes, what we can see, what's going on, what we can hear, the arguments, the fighting, the lack, the scary times, the physical sickness, all that is very easy to see, isn't it? And it seems very, very real, and sometimes it seems like it's going to crush us. But what I found out is that more importantly than all these things that we're fixed on and looking at is what is transpiring between my heart and between the Lord. What exchange is happening there? What is He teaching me? What am I to learn through this. Because those things that are seen are temporary, the Bible says. And truly they were. My family member is doing much better now. Doing great. My husband, like I told you, received a new heart from the Lord. And it's been one of the greatest gifts in my life here on this earth. But what is unseen is eternal. And what was unseen and all that was going on around me was that I was getting to know the Lord, that I was understanding Him more. I was becoming more dependent on Him and not myself and not my husband and not my job. And those lessons, those changes that were happening within me are eternal. Being transformed into His image. Being renewed in the way that I thought, my perspective, the way that I saw things. That was changing. That is eternal. All those other things passed away. During the time I was walking through them, I didn't think I was ever going to make it. But they all passed away. But what remains are the priceless lessons that the Lord has taught me through that time. He showed me during that time that my husband was an idol in my heart. I looked to my husband. I depended on him for what I needed, for security, for strength and all this. And while the Lord does bless us through people, all good things come from Him. And I learned through that time that my help comes from the Lord. It doesn't come through that job or the money in my account or anything like that. My help is from Him, and I grew and grew and grew way more dependent on one word that He might speak to me than any help that this world or a person or anything could offer me. His words are sure. You know, when He gives, He doesn't take back. And so let me try to sum this up. I hope the point come across. How is this thing I'm sharing, could it help you? You know, that's the thing about it, is that He is not a respecter of persons. He is not partial. He is fair, righteous, good, pure intentions for you and me. And when truth is presented, you can take that truth and go and live by it. Apply it to your life. See if He will not answer and deliver and rescue you also. He will. So, whatever situation you got going on right now, whatever it is that's sucking the life out of you, filling you with fear, anxiety, worry, pain, oh God, He is with us in pain. I've been to some depths and level of darkness and pain and hell that nobody else could reach me but Him. He truly is with us. He truly does not forsake us. He truly is able, no matter what you have going on. So, whatever the circumstance is, it's not the thing to look at and focus on. But what does that circumstance or person or situation, what does it cause to come up in your mind? What feelings, what fears does it invoke? And whatever comes up in your mind and heart, because of these situations pressing on you. That is what the Lord wants to work on. That's what he meant, that it was what was going on in my heart, and it was between me and him. That is what you take to the Lord and talk with him about. Is it anger? Fear? Whatever it is. That is what we go and take to the Lord, for he desires to work on you and me. Before you'll ever see his hand move in that situation, you will find that it's moving in you. It's changing you. It's transforming you. This situation and circumstance and hard time is serving you. And as the Lord began to get me to a place to where I could just say, you know what? No matter what happens, whether my husband comes home, whether my family member straightens out, no matter what happens, even now today, I want to know you more, Lord. I want to be more like you. And this is where the work begins, in our own heart, in our own mind. It's true. We think we're wrestling and struggling with that situation, that hard time, that person. The struggle's right here. Here in here is the battle. And this is where our faith and confidence, and our hope, and our learning and standing on the promises of God helps us from all those accusing thoughts, all those angry thoughts, all these kind of things. This is what the Lord wants to work on. So I thought I'd share that, and I know it went long, and for anybody that listened all the way through, I pray the Lord help you in your situation. He's strong enough, he's able, all right? Pour out your heart to him. Talk with him about everything. Everything matters, all right? And ask him to begin this great transformative, everlasting work in your own heart and mind. You know? So I hope I can help somebody. I love y'all. I'm sorry for the hard things you're going through. But the Lord is here to help us, and he will. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.